Hello and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm John Mitchell. I'm here with Darren Root today.
Hello, John.
Good to see you, Darren. We are with Rootworks, and we are honored to get a chance to talk to you today. We don't have a ton of time. I wish we did have more time because we got a lot to talk about. But our topic today is 3 ways to use smarter client management. We're going to define that for you here in a second to provide better proactive advisory services and build the company you've always wanted. That's a lot to do in a short amount of time, but we've got 3 ways to do it today.
Yeah, it is. This concept of smarter client management may be new to our listeners. So we probably ought to spend just a little bit of time talking through that.
Yeah, the idea of smarter client management, the way we talk about our clients, the way we see our clients, the way we think about our clients in a lot of small accounting firms has not evolved in the last 20 years.
Or longer.
Or maybe longer, yeah. And there are so many things to leverage in terms of data and insights that we believe will make your firm easier to manage, and it will create better advisory services for your clients.
Yeah, in another episode that we did of Ask the Experts, that's hard to
easy
say,
for you to
by
say.
the way. It's hard for me to say. We talked about the difference between a customer and a client. Yeah. And we essentially said that the way we thought about customers was more of a broad swath, collective of people, where a client was more boutique-ish, if you will. So when you think about a client of a firm, and you think about the concept of smarter client management. So what I mean by smarter client management is really this idea. Well, let me just back up a second. In the old days, you would pick up a new client. You would chuck them into your system, and then you would move on and try to get the next new client. And you didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the client that you just chucked into your system. You just kind of served them. The idea of smarter client management is really not just chucking that new client into the system, but actually onboarding them into the right technologies and everything, and getting them into your system the right way. But then actively managing that client in the smartest possible way as you move forward. I'm arguing today that smart client management is maybe one of the most important roles that you have inside your firm today.
Quite a statement.
Well, it is. And when I say one of, the other thing I think is even more important is staff experience or employee experience. I think that is the biggest asset that you have in your company is your staff. And if you're not taking care of them, then it all falls apart at some point.
I love that you mentioned both of those things together because I think they're closely tied. When I think of a customer, I hate to name names, but I think of Starbucks. I'm a customer of Starbucks. They don't know me. They don't know. If I'm on their app, they have a little bit of more insight into me.
They're more about selling the right product and providing the right experience, and it's less about you.
Yeah.
And it's more about making sure that they do those things
Absolutely.
well.
And what's interesting is you have an opportunity in a small accounting firm to create that client experience, that individual human experience. But how do you do it? How do I know what people need? How do I know what they currently have? How do I know how they're organized as a small business? How do I know, whether or not they have an agreement, buy-sell agreement? How do I know those things unless I am proactive, we keep using that word, proactively managing them? And what you described at the beginning of this thing is this sense of people come in and they get lost in our company. And what we're talking about is a hands-on approach, which probably means less clients, but it means the right human beings around you. And what that does is it elevates your team. It makes them relationship people instead of just driven by tasks and the next job that comes in.
Yeah, it's as I mentioned, I think your team is your biggest asset. So taking care of that asset is critically important. But I think your next largest asset inside the firm is your client base. Mm. And to not actively manage that asset, if you had a pile of money in investments, you would want somebody actively managing that pile of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And trying to maximize the return out of that. I would say the exact same thing applies to your client base. So your client base needs to be thought of as one of your biggest assets. And smart client management is making sure that, you have the right clients. It's making sure that you're charging them the right fees. And this isn't a one and done. Yeah. This is an ongoing, everyday sort of thing, right? It's making sure they're using the right technologies. It's making sure that you understand everything about them. And I realize how hard that can be, but the world's changing, and there's ways that we now have to glean information, insights into those clients that you bring on so that you can be proactive in the way that you serve them.
So now that we've set the stage with the idea of what we mean by client management, smarter client management, I just want to mention these 3 ways that we believe that you can use that sort of a system inside of your firm to really create the kind of company that you want, but create that boutique level and that really hands-on level of advisory services. And the first one is just identifying the right ideal client, getting the right people that you're serving. It kind of surfaced amongst that big pile of clients that you have.
I think we say this in every session that you and I end up doing is you have to know who the right client is.
Everything starts there.
It does. You have to know who that is. And you have to seek to get those clients.
So what do you say to someone who has not done that? Maybe they built their firm 15 years ago.
Sure.
And they took whoever came in the door, and now they've got a big pile of people, businesses. What do you do to identify who your ideal client is in the midst of that?
Well, you start by identifying who your ideal client is. You can sit with your staff and you can say, who are our best clients?
What do we do best?
Right, and why are they our best clients? And it's going to be for a series of reasons. And in RootWorks, we've sort of identified what 10 of those are. It's things like, they pay us on time, they take our advice, they fit within the type of clients we know how to serve. They're buying the right services from us.
Aptitude for technology.
Right.
Yep.
They want to leverage the technology. There's 5 of the 10 right there. And if you can identify those 5 things, and you can go through your client list and figure out which clients fit that and which don't, that's a good start.
It's a really good start. And if you are at the beginning of your firm, don't start until you get this identified.
Well, the world we live in today, John, is there's greater demand than there is supply, which allows a firm to be selective. And that's an awesome place to be.
Yeah.
Right? And we're really feeling that now.
So we want you to identify your ideal client as a part of this. And the second thing is to sell from your sweet spot. Much like identifying your client, you need to step back and go, what is my sweet spot? Darren, talk about a sweet spot for a second.
Sweet spot is I like to think of it as when the phone rings and it's a prospect, who do I want that to be? Right? And so that's an ideal client. And then the next thing is, what do I want them to consume? Right? What do I want? Do I want to sell bookkeeping services? Do I want to sell payroll services? Do I want to sell advisory services? Are they willing to pay, our fees for that? Knowing that and selling from that space, knowing what powers your economic engine inside your firm, you need to know that so that you're really driving that really from your sweet spot.
So one of the things I love about this conversation around better client management, smarter client management, is that small accounting firms hate selling. For the most part, across the board, the people that we talk to, they don't enjoy marketing and selling. It's not a part of their DNA. But the thing about smarter client management is that you're not going out and getting fresh work all the time. You're maximizing your own client base. Let's take the people that we've already identified that I play golf with every 2 weeks, or that I know their kids and I know their family, or these are the kind of human beings I want to surround myself. And then let's identify all of the ways that we can organically serve them and surface the data and insights so that we can make sure we're serving them completely and holistically.
Yeah, accounting firms traditionally haven't had to sell in the traditional sense. It's never really been dialing for dollars and really having to actively go sell. I have always liked, and I practiced for 35 years. I just like to educate, and then the sale comes. If you can, if you know what it is that you want to sell, and you can educate people on why this makes sense for them, the sale just happens, right? So you just got to bring clarity to that. And the more you know about your client, and let me just give you an example of this, John. If I know that I have a client that is a partnership, so I know that they're a partnership, so that's an insight. I know that they don't have a buy-sell agreement. That's another insight. I know that lack of buy-sell agreement is not funded by life insurance. I mean, there's 3 pieces of information there that give me a lot of insight into that customer. Now, there's lots of things that can go wrong with that customer. The partnership could split up and there was no buy-sell agreement, and that can unravel and create havoc. Somebody can pass away and it wasn't funded by life insurance. So there's a lot of bad things that can go wrong with this particular partnership if it's not all buttoned up. So an accounting firm needs to leverage those insights to just inform, educate the client on why this makes sense. It is selling, but it doesn't feel like selling. It feels like helping.
It does.
Right? And that's how you maximize your advisory business.
And that transitions perfectly into the third way that we believe that smart client management can help you create better proactive advisory services, and that is to productize your proactive advisory services, creating products out of these things. And you just mentioned it, buy-sell agreement. That is a product under the category of advisory products on your website inside of your firm.
I know that firms probably out there think that there's this unlimited number of things that you consult on.
We're all doing the same thing.
Right. but the reality is it's super finite. And you're really good at doing 40 things, 50 things.
Mm-hmm.
Is it retirement planning? Is it buy-sell agreements? What is it? Is it education planning? Whatever those things are, identify them. It's not unlimited, right? It is finite. Identify them and then say, here's the 50 that we're awesome at. And chances are there's some really big ones there. It's like your client accounting practice, your payroll practice, your tax practice. Where you get into more numbers is in the advisory piece of your business. But again, you can productize each and every one of those. So let's just assume that you have 10 products over in the first categories I mentioned, and the other 40 products are in your advisory suite, if you will. Go identify them and then create a product for each and every one of those pieces.
Feels so good too as a client for me to be in a conversation with you and for you to already know, 1, that I don't have a buy-sell agreement, and 2, that I'm anxious about it. And you have already created, maybe it's a sell sheet, a very simple sell sheet or a list of bullet points that gives me this sense that you already know what you're doing. You know me, you know the industry, and you know how to move forward from here. This is what it means to be a modern accounting firm leveraging data this way.
There's really 2 key components. One is having clarity on the product that you want to sell, right? So let's just take retirement planning. There's not an unlimited set of retirement plans out there. I mean, there may be like 8 different ones or something. So you, to your point, John, you can create a short presentation that you pull off the shelf and says, here's the product that we have around retirement planning. The other key to this is knowing who doesn't have a retirement plan, right? So it's gaining insights into your customer base. And hopefully you can do this in a way that is without friction. So we want to figure out how to gain these insights without a lot of friction. And friction is your staff has to start calling people or whatever the case might be. We've got to figure out how to do this without friction, surface those insights, and then have the product to solve the problem. I mean, just imagine what your firm would be like if you had all these insights and you had the products on the other side of that. Man, that's a sweet spot right there.
Yeah, using your imagination to figure out what that might look like is really saying, I want to build the business that I intend from the beginning. And really that's the end, the end part of this sentence that we use to say, we want to talk about client management today, and that is, how do I build the company I've always wanted? And Darren, just working backwards, we believe this is how you do it.
Yes.
You find out who your ideal clients are. Who are the people that we serve best? What could we be selling them, and what is our sweet spot? And then how can we continually surface insights from our relationship with them and what we know of them to keep feeding back to them the things that we do best to develop relationships? That's how we build the business we've always hoped for.
All the things you just said, John, is smart client management. That's really what it is. It's the active, ongoing, daily activity of managing that asset.
And it's your opportunity. You've got that chance right now. The great reassessment is what we're calling it right now at the end of this pandemic, and we hope that it's the end. But that sense that we're going to stop and reassess what we're doing and start something new, fresh, 2.0 of your firm. Good luck to you as you do that. And thanks for listening to us today. We'll see you next time on Ask the Expert.